I'm hoping we're live. Yes, we are. Alright, guys. If you're wondering why there was no Friday night live stream, then where have you been? Because I did an online charity gig yesterday and it literally started at 7 p.m. when I usually do my live stream. So that was why I fell asleep right at the end. So I don't know how much we ended up making, but I know that we made quite a lot of money the last time I checked. So that's amazing. To anyone who's watching on playback per chance, I still have tickets for my tour that is in September in the UK and Ireland. So please do go get them. They're available on janetdevlin.com. And other ticket websites. You'll see them in the link in my bio in my social media. Also, there will be a staging at the end of the month as well. So don't forget to check that out. Also, I have a Patreon, and I'm literally editing a video for Patreon right now. Well, not right now, because I'm doing this. But if you're wondering, if you're like, why is there Janet content? It's because Janet's probably prioritizing the Patreon. So I do apologize, but I will be doing some more YouTube content anyway if you cannot afford the Patreon. So, hell yeah. Alright, I don't even know where we left off. Someone said just got an email from Nikhil about last night too. Did you guys have fun? It was really fun. I enjoyed it. Where's the privileged white girl? Hi, that's me apparently. Also, if I do have to dash off camera for 5 minutes, it's because my mom basically ordered me dinner. So that was very sweet. Because I was just basically like, I know I have to cook food and I'm not going to cook. I know I'm not going to cook food and I'll probably just have a bagel for dinner. And I was like, well, a bagel's better than nothing. And anyway, she ended up like ordering me dinner. So anyway, the last number I heard was 2,800. Wow, it's mad, isn't it? So that's really amazing. Alright, Jesus, I don't even know where to start. Thank you so much to everybody who's joining in the chat. Let me just check that everything's running smoothly. Because your girl is doing this on her own. Don't know. Okay, well, it's coming up green on my server thingy majiggy, so that's cool. Oh, bless Pat, I know. What a wee jam, wee sweetheart. You got attacked by a goose while cycling. That's amazing. Pat is most definitely the best. She's very adorable and we love her and we stand Patricia. So a lot has happened this week. I did a gig up in Manchester, which was live streamed. It's a lot of streaming this week, lads. A lot of streaming, but it was really fun. I got to travel all the way up to Manchester. And just, it felt like almost a gig. Which was just a bit bizarre, all things considered. Pat the kidnapper. Yes, Mum is now the proud owner of my dog. Well, no, Mum is the proud owner of Bean, because she was never going to give him up even for 2 months. So, the gig went really well, and it was just really nice just to be playing a set with a musician, and that was just a really nice new feeling considering it's been so bloody long. So I did mention there that there might be food coming and I may have to dash out to get that, just so we're aware, just so we know. I will say, because I do overshare, shocker, that a lot of like personal lifey stuff has happened this week since the last time we spoke. Not great stuff. And I don't want to go into it because I don't like talking about necessarily a lot of my interpersonal relationships because quick hello from the States. Hi Bob. Hi guys. So it's Saturday Night Live. No, we can't call it Saturday Night Live because someone will probably try to sue me because that's definitely trademarked. So it's not Saturday Night Live, it's Friday Night Live on Saturday. So there's that. Life always happens. Life very much does always happen. But I just want to say that there is, before I go into any of the personally stuff that's going on, we are working on new music. Oh my god, I'm not pregnant, just so we get that out there. I am working on new music. It's all going really well. Literally, one of the producers is living his best life. Because he literally loves the song we did the other day, and he is just like making it sound magical. So that's all really fun. Congratulations on the marriage. Oh, thank you. Me and me are very happy together. So yes. I always get thrown off. My mom is trying to FaceTime me. Can I call you back later? Because I'm live on the internet.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to say hi to the internet?
Hi to the internet.
Someone called you the dog napper. How does that feel?
Don't care. He's something mine, not yours.
That's cruel. I love you. Bye. Patricia. Ruthless. By the way, she has a sense of humor. She's not just being a mean person. She's just funny. Where did I even go? Yes, the music is all going really, really well, and it's coming along nicely. It's a lot behind schedule. But we're working on it. It's coming. It will happen before the tour. I hate the way I say tour when I have to try and enunciate, and I'm like, tour. But it's tour. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, yes, there's a wild gong. Am I missing a gong? I don't think I missed it. I don't know if I should be able to see it if it comes up in this. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. That's what I wanted to say before I jumped into the personal life stuff. Okay, so a few things happened in my personal life. I had a few external triggers, and anyway, I got a bit thrown into like what I like to call an episode, but like I wouldn't say full on episode. Do you know what I mean? Like I definitely didn't like destroy my life. I didn't relapse. I didn't do anything that dumb. Like spent too much money, but luckily I spent the money like on stuff for the house, so it was like well placed at least, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, so I had a bit of an episode, and it did affect people in my life, and that's why I obviously don't talk about my interpersonal relationships, and that is one of the reasons why I don't talk about my interpersonal relationships, is because I have a really, really great tendency of like ruining them. And also, just because I choose to put my life online doesn't mean that anyone else is ever signing up for it. Do you know what I mean? Unless I have someone's expressed consent. Thank you so much. Unless I have someone's expressed consent to tell a story or something like that, or they're no longer in my life, it doesn't make any sense. It's not fair for me to share that. And yes, my therapist did that. What are you if you don't have XYZ? It shocked me. Oh, it's hard, isn't it? I said that on the call on the gig the other day. So anyway, I flung my life into a few days worth of inner turmoil, but it wasn't just a few days. It was like a lead up, and then it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, until obviously the ramifications of my actions get quite like, basically I just destroy my personal life. It's just what I do. I don't have control over it. I try my best to like not do it, but like, and I am quite good at controlling it, I suppose, and I've gotten way better at controlling it. But sometimes I just can't control it, and that's just the way it is. So after destroying it for pretty much my own last straw, I just decided to finally bite the bullet, and I decided to get my mental health diagnosis. So I contacted the psychiatrist that I saved on my computer. I was like, if I go to one, I'll probably go to this guy. He seems really good, because I spent ages researching it last year, and I just put it on the back burner, and I don't know why. I just never got around to it. I never did. And then I knew that I needed to do it. and I booked it in. And I booked it like basically like 2 days after I'd, screwed some stuff up. And I went in, and so you kind of have a choice, right? You can, when it comes to psychiatric appointments like that, like a diagnosis appointment, some people opt for multiple appointments where they, will go and do it like in half-hour slots. Well, like it's 45 minutes normally, because it takes like 15 minutes to like say hello and say goodbye. So you pay for 45 minutes and you do it like a few times, and then you get a diagnosis. Or for someone like myself who's already been in the mental health system quite a lot, I have the choice really of doing like a 2-hour thing, or just you pay for 2 hours, and then anything beyond that they usually kind of give you that. And the reason why I can do those 2-hour things, I think, was because he said if he had any questions, he can always access my files, which is true because I went to rehab. I have been open with my doctor for years. You know what I mean? Like, there is access to documents on my mental health if he needed them, which I think he might be reading before he writes up my exact treatment plan, which I get next week. But anyway, I basically went in, and I'm going to go through this process. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, ignore the chat for a little bit and just talk about that. And I will do a video on it, but just in case anybody is watching this on playback, I know that some people get a little bit frustrated whenever I lose track of my thoughts, and they're like, I really wanted to know how you did X, Y, or Z. So let me just cover the chat here for a second, because otherwise I will get really distracted. Right. So I had a consultation on the phone, which was free. And I was very glad that I found this guy, because he was very, very nice, and was very descriptive even in our phone call, because it's supposed to be like a 15-minute consultation, but it was still like well over that. It must have been like a half hour to 45 minutes we had like just a consultation for. And already he had a few ideas of what he thought I might have. So that was handy, I suppose. But he didn't say anything to me, which was good, because he asked if I wanted to hear some of his ideas, and I was like, no, I don't really want to go on like a Google sleuth and then start like diagnosing myself with things that I don't have, which has always been my way of like, I only really know about certain traits of certain mental illnesses literally because friends of mine have them, or influencers I watch have them, just things that they've shared essentially. So I just went in with an open mind, and we went straight in. He was just like, do you have water? Do you have like blah blah blah? He's like, I can offer you breaks every time we go through a certain segment, but it's going to be quite in depth or whatever. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So we literally, the only break I took was before I got my diagnosis. So I talked for 2 hours, and it's quite a clinical process. It's very, so a psychiatrist is very different from like a psychologist or a therapist, who they want to like talk to. They want to get you talking essentially. Whereas a psychiatrist, as the best way I describe it, is when you go to the car diagnostics man and he plugs it in and he just runs a system check and he tries to like figure out what's wrong with the car. That's kind of what they do. They don't really offer like therapy. They're just trying to get the diagnosis, So he asked me loads of questions about, my childhood, my past, my teenage years, my relationships, my traumas, like all of the things that you can imagine you'd have to answer. Plus some stuff that I would have thought was a bit like irrelevant, but it's very relevant. Also like your family history and just everything that you can imagine. Luckily, it's not my first time kind of going through those things, so I find it quite easy. I don't spend time wasting trying to figure things out, because I'm like, I remember being asked this before, so I can kind of just smash through it. And then we get to the more personal questions, and then you get to where you are now, and like essentially what brought you in, and I think that's kind of why it was easier to diagnose me than maybe it would have been if I hadn't had an episode, because I was very able to be like, here are the ramifications of my actions in the past like week, just this past week, and here's what I did, and here's why I did it, and here's how I've been feeling, or lack thereof in certain cases, blah blah blah, and explain the whole thing. So it definitely is easier kind of to get a diagnosis when you're in the midst of it, because definitely if I'm well, like more well, I find it easier to like lie and be like, yeah, everything's fine, everything's perfect, everything's amazing. Or just like, yeah, I have my bad days. Yeah, 2 hours in, and he's like, do you want a break before I give you a diagnosis? And I was like, yes. So I went to the bathroom and I came back, and then we went over my diagnosis for the next half hour, and it was things that had been thrown my way before. So basically, I am going to pull up the chat now because I feel like I can handle reading a few things. Yeah, so basically I have 2 things, and that is borderline personality disorder, which has been thrown at me before, and also, what was the other one? Bipolar type 2, which I genuinely didn't know that those 2 things could go hand in hand, but here we are, we're learning things. So basically, I have those things. Although he seems to think that my bipolar is chilled out at the minute, and that it's my BPD that's kind of causing me my main issues. And I'm really glad that I went, because literally on the day of the phone call, I was like, I'm fine, I'm just making this all up, everything's fine, I'm just a bad person, and I have nothing wrong with me, and whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's not true. I actually do have now diagnosed mental illness, because I always used to say undiagnosed, but now it's diagnosed. Mental twinsies, high five. I would get the gong, but it looks really pretty on the wall. But like, bing, 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 bing. So everything makes sense. And I was given some literature to read, and it was the funniest experience of my life, because 90% of the stuff I read just was like, who wrote a book about me? Who wrote this blog about me? Or who did this, that, and the other? And it was like relating so much to it. So yeah, it was very interesting. It was a very eye-opening process. So yeah, a lot makes sense. Obviously about like even down to like the whole favorite person thing. Let me just make sure that it's on. Is it on live chat or is it on top chat? I don't know. Okay. So the favorite person thing is quite interesting, to say the least, because I can now clearly identify as well, like, the at least 3 people I've had as my favorite person, and that's in and of itself like having a favorite person. It sounds like, oh, I used to have a favorite person. No, do you know the saddest way I can only describe it is like that stupid scene in Twilight, you know, where it's like, you imprinted on my daughter thing. So it's kind of like the whole imprinting thing. It's basically like your whole life revolves around a person, and it's really toxic and it's really awful, and it's happened to me like 3 times. And that one time as well, like I had like a person, and it was my person, like my favorite person, and then because the biggest issue with bipolar is the fear of abandonment. Why is this one person? Someone said bipolar is no joke. Stop. Like, I know, because I have it. Wait, is someone like literally trying to fight me now in the chat and just be like, you don't have it? Because like, I swear to God, I'm getting really tired of people saying these things. Like, having a favorite person is not great. One of mine literally messed up my brain and put me in such a bad place when I couldn't see them. Yeah, it's really bad. What's the difference between a favorite person and being in love? So that's really hard to find out. I suppose in some way, like, everyone has a bit of BPD. Don't let it get you down. Is that true? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. Finding the difference between a favorite person and being in love is actually really difficult. And I think the biggest issue is as well, I've always wondered why like my favorite person tends to be like narcissistic or toxic. And yes, I think that is probably the issue for people with BPD, is trying to find out the difference. Richard, thank you so much. Yeah. Wait. Stop saying that. Saying what? Exactly. Sorry. I really want to answer the questions that are coming in the chat. Because when I say favorite person, that's to do with the borderline, not to do with your issue right now, which is the bipolar. It's bipolar type 2, by the way. So it's not type 1. You don't have it. Okay, do you know what? Now you're getting blocked. Oh, God almighty Christ. I feel like that's a very okay. Lucky. So I've hidden their comments, so I don't know if you guys can see their comments, but I can't, so that makes me fine. Yeah, basically I think one of the issues that I've always had is like, you know, that a person just being like, you don't have it, is like, well, I don't think I have it either, but enough, like, professional literally says I do. So I'm gonna say that I'm gonna trust a professional and not someone else who also has a mental illness. Video froze for me. I'm in rehab with horrible VPN on a horrible firewall. Oh. I'm not a fan of that. We're all a bit. My brain goes, you're a fraud. Me too. Yeah, I find it really difficult. And I used to, like, literally get so upset and angry and rageful whenever certain people in my life would be like, oh yeah, but like, you know, you're not that bad. Like, you're really, like, you're fine. And I would be really upset because it wasn't that like someone was they're trying to be nice because they're like, oh, you're okay, like, you know, you're not like other alcoholics, or you're not like other people with depression or something. And I'm like, I'm just really, really good at hiding it around you. And I think that's like really difficult to like explain. I think some people struggle with others having the same illness when it makes up a large part of their life, like you're stealing their identity, possibly. You're wise to stick to professionals, yeah. Oh, it's hard though, because like obviously I want to agree with them and I want to be like, yeah, I don't have mental illness, like I don't have that, I don't have it, whatever. And I think it's obviously like a weird one because, you know, they have bipolar. Jagged triangle. I find it upsetting that other people are thinking that they know more about you than you do. People need to chill the feck out and trust you and your world. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Jagged triangle. Yeah, I'll mask like a mofo. Absolutely. I do have depression sometimes, not all the time. The depression one, I will say, was the hardest question for me to ask out of the whole time I was on the call with the psychiatrist. That was really difficult because I was like, I mean, like sometimes, I mean, like maybe. He's like, for prolonged periods, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe. So that was like the hardest. Have you done a sky? No, I haven't done a skydive before. I'm trying to do one. masking is exhausting in and of itself. Yeah, absolutely. And it like only kind of shoots you in the foot as well anyway, because then people are like, oh, you're fine. And it's like, oh. And she's not going through an episode. You'd have no idea anything was wrong with her. People really can't judge off the snippets of your life they can see. Now, this is very true. So I was having like an episode for like quite a while. And that's why I didn't really post on TikTok. And I was only streaming whenever I like had to, or like when I really wanted to, or I felt like it was gonna like act as a distraction. But there were some days where to literally not be in danger, I would have to go and have a bath. And that sounds really dumb, and I sound like I'm somebody from camp being like, have you tried having a bath, darling? But no, it's true. I'm like, I'm gonna sit in this bath for like 2 hours so that I just don't do any dumps. And then I'm gonna get out, and then I know it's only 9 o'clock, but we're gonna go to bed. And we're just gonna be in bed. So like no one sees me when I post these things. Or like no, whenever I'm going through these things, I don't post them. Like I don't share when I'm having this bad time. And like even the psychiatrist is like, you've got really good strong coping mechanisms, and I have. And I think a lot of the reasons why I'm able to manage a lot of my symptoms a lot of the time is because I don't drink and I don't take drugs. Do you know what I mean? And I think that anyone with borderline or bipolar or whatever will agree that alcohol doesn't help you and your symptoms. And I feel like for me, I expected when I quit alcohol, I thought like all my issues would be solved. And for some people that is absolutely the truth. Like they go into recovery, they do the program, and they work through their just internal stuff, and then you know, they're fine. Or like, well, they're not fine, but they're manageable or whatever, you know what I mean? Whereas I went into recovery, got sober, and like, even through working through stuff, I never really like, I never seemed to be having the same journey as like some other people around me. And it wasn't until like, basically I got to rehab and was told like, that's all fine and well for those people, and some people are like that, but you have to go to therapy. You aren't one of these blessed people that can just like get sober and that's it. And I was like, okay. So I have bipolar type 2 and BPD. Woo! Double whammy. No, but it's okay. It like made me feel a bit better knowing that it is that. So anyway, I've been in therapy since I left rehab, and I feel like that's definitely helped me a lot with managing, because it was just talk therapy, so that was good. Lies, you love you. That makes sense. Thank you. I was like, lies, you're not another person who doesn't believe me. So anyway, I've been in therapy, and that's definitely helped. It didn't help that I took a month off therapy in the midst of a breakdown last month, so that was cool. I love that for me. I keep up with the financial words. Thank you so much. Do you take medication? Yes, I do. I take an antidepressant. And when I was speaking to the psychiatrist, you know, obviously you can take antipsychotics, but at the minute he doesn't seem to think that the payoff is worthwhile. Because of my past with, you know, my eating disorder and stuff like that. He's like, basically like, you know, their chances you may gain weight are quite high. Like a lot of people gain weight on them, and if you do, like that could flare up your eating disorder, which, you know, leads you on to doing this, that, you know, whatever, all my other bull. So it was a bit like, okay. I told him what I was on, which is just general Prozac, but it's like fluoxetine, I don't know. And he was like, no, that's actually probably the best one you can be on, because one of my issues is like, you know, here's like where you should be, like here's just middle of the road existence, And my problem is that I keep my highs really high, like, and my lows are really, really low. And that's why life feels like a roller coaster, and it's like unbearable and exhausting. So basically, they're putting the thing about antidepressants is that they can just bring you to like a baseline. So some people don't like them because you don't get to feel necessarily the high highs or the low. So it stops you from feeling the high highs and the low lows. So it kind of keeps you more in the middle. So that actually works well for someone like me, because realistically, I'll be I'm more productive if I can just like kind of skate in the middle here instead of, so I'm not getting anything done when I'm doing this constant flip flop. But oh no, the dog never. Oh God, what is going on? I feel like I've missed a lot. Group therapy. So I have been suggested to go to a few group therapies actually, which is cool. There's actually a few NI ones as well, which people were telling me about, which is awesome. So I might just do those because they're all online at the minute. But I mean, it could definitely be beneficial. It makes sense because it's hard as well as somebody who's in recovery. Like, you don't want to be bringing in like you want to be talking about your recovery in AA or CA or whatever your AA is, and that was always one of my issues, and that's why I ended up in therapy, was because I had a lot of emotional baggage, and then therapy was getting on my nerves because nothing wasn't like answering any of my questions as to why I was acting the way I was acting. And it's so funny because the amount of things that I said to my therapist that are literal like symptoms of my disorders is just like, why? And I think it made me a little bit angry and resentful for a day, that I was annoyed that my therapist didn't suggest for me to go. And there was a few times where I almost felt like he was just trying to like keep me in therapy instead of like going and seeing a psychiatrist. I don't know, dude. But that could be a lot of internalizing and a lot of like over reading and over analyzing like situations and stuff. But like, we'll see. But yes. I think your music is a better solution for most of those medications. Okay, yes, yes and no, okay? Like, I will always be writing music, I'll always make art, and I'll always continue to do so. But I don't like it when people try and be like, art is your best medicine. I hate it. I hate when people are like, I say to someone like, oh, I'm going through this thing, and they're like, oh, just write a song about it, peace sign. Have you tried writing about it? It makes me rageful because I don't think people understand that when I'm in the states that sometimes I get into, writing is impossible. Like, I know people here in the chat have experienced, like, say, mania. Like, if you're in a state of mania, you're not able to write a song. Like maybe some people can, I don't know, but I couldn't. I'm too all go. I just couldn't focus for that long on writing a track, or like I wouldn't have been. I couldn't, like, if I was in like manic depression, I wouldn't be able to write a song then too, because you can't do anything. It's these high highs and these low lows stop you from being a productive person. So when people tell me to just like write songs about it, I find it really like minimizing. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just saying it just in case anyone says it to anyone else. Like, the only meds I'm on are antidepressants. Apologies that I shouldn't have burdened you with that stuff. I should know better, but no, my God, Jess, no, I asked you. You didn't burden me with anything. I just felt for you, dude. None of that was your fault. I felt for you because it was your birthday, dude. And I love you lots, and I wanted to say happy birthday, and I genuinely wanted to see how you were doing. Write a poem / song, etc. I can't focus or function for more than 5 seconds when I get into some headspaces. Yes. So agree with you, Jana. When I hit the absolute skids, high or low, I cannot function. I ain't getting nothing done in that state. Yes. Absolutely. But I felt bad. Why? Don't feel bad. I mean, I can't tell you how I feel. But if you're thinking that it like made me upset, like as in like ruined my mental headspace or something like that, it didn't. It just made me feel for you, like a person feels for a friend. You know, I just felt for you. Please don't feel bad. I swear to God. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Like I cared. Jumpsuit you had part of the stream recorded. No, these are just tracky bottom. Why do you have a horse in your arm? Because I love death. I love dead horses. I couldn't look after a dog right now, and I know that people are like, just get a dog, but like right now, I just think it's silly. Like for me, as someone who has commitments and stuff, like I would be leaving too much. I don't have the money to pay for a dog sitter. Like I genuinely couldn't have a dog right now. Unless I had like a friend who wanted to help. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, unless I had like a neighbor or something that I got on really well with, it's impossible. But I've signed up for like the dog babysitting websites, so there's that. Hey John, long time fan from the US. I understand what you're talking about. I am in NA. Oh, and it has helped me come into the US anytime soon. Thank you so, man. So hopefully I'm coming to the US as soon as I can, as soon as like legally allowed and I'm vaccinated and all the fun stuff. I'll definitely be coming over. So yay, and congrats for being an NA, dude. I do like the occasional NA meeting. I feel like people are really real in them. Yeah, so Cindy says it seems like you've been through a lot this year in a pandemic, not seeing your family and your dog. So that is why it's been hard, like for me, is that I rely heavily on feeling like connected to friends and family. Have a good night, Grant. And to be as isolated in real life, as isolated as I feel in my head anyway, is quite the struggle, I would say. Do you know what I mean? Like it's quite hard, you know? Because your circumstance then matches your mental state, and I never find that that's good. Like if my head's a mess, then that's when I like will make sure that my room's clean, and I'll make sure like all that kind of stuff is good so that they don't match. Oh, I've heard people talk about that. You have PTSD. People saying anti-Ds don't work, just don't really understand. Yeah, I feel like those are the kind of people, like I said it on a TikTok and I'll say it again, like when people say, oh, antidepressants don't work or SSRIs don't work or whatever, it's like, dude, I'm so glad you could cure your depression from like early morning runs and listening to Joe Rogan. Like, I love that for you, but not everyone is as lucky. Will Mark be talking with your psychiatrist directly about your diagnosis to work out the new plan for you? Good question, Jack. Actually, so basically, they don't have to. My psychiatrist is going to write it all down. Like that's what he's away doing, and he's going to send it to me hopefully next week, and then I can forward that on to Mark and explain it all to Mark, so he can know better about how my treatment plan should work, and I can stop doing the tippity tappities because I hate them. It's a duck. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, lockdown was hard because I lost my support network. SSRIs don't work, but I shoved a crystal up my ass and I feel 20 times better. Yeah, exactly. I mean, haven't you tried shoving a crystal up your ass? OMG lads, update. I know I just got a call and booked the doctor's appointment and I shall be registered. I'm gonna get copyrighted. Congratulations, Jess! That means I need to get my button gear this week, doesn't it? I didn't have time last week. Patrick, thank you so much. I understand I haven't seen most of my friends in, well, months now. Online time is good, but it doesn't replace contact. It really doesn't. Like, I need, like, physical contact. Yeah. I probably should have taken up plants. Because I know that, like, the sulfates and stuff in the soil are, like, really good for you. But, like, not really. My ADHD meds have reacted with my antidepressants, so I'm waiting for their assessments myself. What advice do you have for anyone waiting for a BPD or a bipolar diagnosis? What advice do you have anyone from waiting? Oh God, I don't know. I would just say, so I always knew that I wanted to get my diagnosis and I wanted it to be as painless as possible. So I would recommend doing quite a lot of reflecting. If you don't already keep a mood journal, I would. Keep it up. Thank you so much. If you don't already keep a mood journal, I would recommend keeping a mood journal. It can be just something as simple as a regular so not like this, but diaries are split up like that. You can get ones for days, right, which are just split up. I would recommend getting one. I don't know where mine is. It's somewhere. And basically, it means that on that day, you can write down certain things that you reacted to or certain things that happened, and it helps you actually identify your triggers easier. Because I started to see a common theme. And I wrote down some stuff from my past when I thought about my past, and then I thought about things in my when I started keeping the journal about a year ago because I knew I was going to go get this diagnosis, and then I just definitely seen a pattern that was showing up way too much, and obviously I'm not going to bring those. I'm not going to openly talk about some stuff that I do in my personal life, but too personal. So basically, yeah, I took that. I had all that information down in case he asked me about anything, and I find it really, really helpful. So yeah, it just helps you see potential recurring patterns. So things that I never would have put one and one together because it was written down. I was like, oh, I've been journaling for months now. It's not every day, but it's nice just to be able to write down or draw even just a little bit of the past. Absolutely, yeah. But for me, it's not the journal I kept wasn't creative because I find I get very bogged down in using the right language and just over analyzing my writing. So if you're like that, then definitely just keep an analytical journal of this happened, this made me feel. This happened, this made me feel. This happened. I feel fine. So I started noticing whenever it was this happened and I feel fine, sometimes it happened a few times. And my favorite personal one was this happened and I'm surprisingly okay. I was not surprisingly okay. I just wasn't feeling it. I was not processing my feelings on that situation. So I was not fine. The shocker. And what I noticed was 3 big things would set me off. And I kind of noticed that pattern a few years ago, but I didn't notice it happen so many times that 3 big emotional things would set me off into a big episode. Because I'm capable of having episodes without triggers, but the times where I had external triggers, my episodes were the most detrimental to my life. Sounds like an Excel sheet. Well, yeah, I think sometimes you have to be a bit like boringly clinical and analytical, and stepping outside of yourself. So, because well, I think it's easy, obviously, if you know you are going to go to an appointment like that. I noticed I have an addictive personality. Well, it's good to notice it, and I would, I can't really obviously step in. Like, I noticed I had an addictive personality, and I did nothing about it until it ruined my life. So just keep an eye on that, please. You haven't launched your support. We're still here for you. Everything is a trigger for me. Fear is my pattern. Fear of failure. How people view me, etc. That's very interesting. I once had a therapist though say to me, like, do you ever think that the fear of failure is the same as the fear of success? And I was like, okay. But no, thank you for the support though. I really appreciate it. Listens intently. Thank you, Grant. I've suffered for 21 years schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. I keep an audio log on my phone about day-to-day events, thoughts, feelings. I can listen back. It's helped me a lot. That's amazing. That's a really good idea. I've studied bipolar behaviour for 30 years. That's interesting. Grace was right. The penguin is sus. There are so many things to be addicted to. And I think that's the funny thing about addictive personalities is something doesn't necessarily have to be addictive for you to be addicted to it. And I think for me that was my differentiation between just having an addictive personality and being an addict was the fact that it didn't have... Best example, sparkling water. Will it ruin my actual day if I don't have sparkling water? Yes. Why? Addicted to it. But that's not addictive. I know, but my brain's addicted to it. It wants it. It's not like I'm not actually addicted, like physically, but like emotionally I'm addicted. And I will be very upset if I don't have the sparkling water. And I don't really know how to explain that to someone who doesn't understand. Failure is my worst trigger. I'm such a perfectionist and I'm so eager to impress people. Oh, I know that feeling. I too have an addictive personality around my life and I had to rebuild everything. It was rough but good learning lesson. That's true. The learning lesson part. I don't wear glasses. You're addicted to sleep. Can you be actually addicted to sleep though? Because, I mean, that would be interesting. Addicted to blue. Friend with the sadness. I love you the most when you say bye. Love that song. I hate bubbles. I am addicted to that sparkly water bubbles. I can't believe it's a Saturday. My brain now thinks it's a Friday and it's freaking me out. Emotional addictions are so hard to explain to people that don't have them. I think it's because there's so much mixed literature out there on the likes of addiction and things like that, there are obviously people that think, and I'm not saying right or wrong either, like I would definitely, but it's hard because you read certain things that are like, no, you can only be addicted to addictive substances, but then that doesn't make sense as to why people be food addicts, because food isn't necessarily an addictive substance. Your brain just gets it hooked on the emotional comfort of eating. And I always, like, as somebody who had anorexia and bulimia, anorexia predominantly, so the actual triggers for anorexia and the act of denying yourself food is the same as the emotional elements of overeating. And I always hate that, people don't really see the interlinkingness of that. But those things are basically the same. If you're starving yourself or if you're overeating, it it's the same thing. Not always, absolutely not. You know, like some people are able to like work in the fitness industry and have their body be a certain way, and I'm not saying they starve, but they restrict or whatever, and like they don't have a mental illness. The same way some people just really love food and they're not addicted to food. Do you know what I mean? They're not abusing food, they just love food, so they do it. But there obviously are people who use it as a weapon, so they are using food as a way to self-harm. That I think is very real. So hopefully I haven't like said anything that I shouldn't have there. Week of 12-hour shift, like what day is this? Oh, God bless you. Yeah. Hi from Hull. Hi. If I lose things, I get so distressed. It's like the comfort of having it. Like my bus pass, I lost it once and I melted down. It was my way home. The weirdest things be emotional addictions. Absolutely. Without actually knowing, feel like that kind of addiction is fairly close to some parts of OCD. For instance, I know intellectually that the door is locked. I still going to check it every 15 times extra. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's like, I know I'll be fine if I don't have the sparkling water. Like, I get that I'll be fine if I don't have the sparkling water. But I will not be fine if I don't have the sparkling water at the same time. And I still will absolutely go get the sparkling water just to not have to listen to my brain. Yes, food can 100% be a way of self-harming. Thank God. I didn't want to, like, sidestep anything there. But I know that these are conversations that I've had in ABA, which is Anorexic Bulimics Anonymous, and also I've had in Overeaters Anonymous because I used to go to OA. How will this affect your career, or will it? Well, I'm hoping it doesn't. Like, nothing changes. Hopefully. Obviously that paranoid voice in my head would like to say like, oh, everyone knows about your disorder now and they're just gonna leave you. Everyone's gonna leave. Everyone's gonna quit on you. Because that's what my brain says. But you know, hopefully not. You know? Also, one of my good friends got discharged from an inpatient eating disorder unit and she attends day service now. So proud of her. Congrats to your friend and please tell her I said, well done. Dia bulimia, I don't think I have. Missing hunger pangs as a side effect of anorexia, do you notice that? So definitely I used to never ever get hungry, and it took about how long did it take? It took about a year of eating 3 meals a day for me to actually start getting hunger back. But then if I'm like in a mental episode of any type, high or low, I do sometimes forget to eat. But if I'm well, I won't forget. Like, I will actually get hunger back. Not maybe as efficiently as other people might, but better than what it used to be. We won't quit on you. I appreciate that a lot. It's just so funny, isn't it? Like, that your brain can just tell you that. If anyone tries to leave, I'm grabbing them and telling them to sit the F down. It's just like, yeah, it's so funny how your brain can do this. Like, where it's just like, yeah, no one's going to want to work with you. Everyone's going to stop working with you. Your family's going to leave. Everyone's going to leave. And that makes sense because you deserve to be left. And then that's the kind of thought process that leads me into, like, quitting my job. Because then I'm like, well, I left before they left, so I feel less lonely because I quit. And that's what I did once. I literally quit my job, not because I wanted to quit my job, but because I thought everyone was going to leave. So I left. I quit my job so that other people couldn't. It's hard to explain. It's very hard to explain, and these are obviously the things that I don't really like to tell people about. Because if I told people like, oh, I quit my job for 3 days, then they'd be like, oh, well, you don't love music because you can't quit music if you love it. And it's like, no, I love it. That's why I quit. Phobia of having a food addiction. Oh, so I get obsessional thoughts that convince me I have a food addiction, so I restrict my eating. Wow, Carling. Well, I wish you all the luck in controlling, but like managing that. My brain goes, you can't fail if you quit it. Yeah, absolutely. Don't feel bad. I would have encouraged it. Like, everyone in my life encouraged it. Like, don't feel bad. Like, everyone did. Because that's the issue. Because I'm so convincing. Like, I believed it. So, of course, everyone else in my life is going to believe it. It's so interesting, isn't it? I'm finding it so fascinating reading your guys' stories. I will say, though, if you don't want anything read out, please let me know that you don't want it read out. Just in case, because I might accidentally read something out. So do be aware. I don't want to read anything out that nobody wants to be shared. That kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean? But it's definitely, I think, one of the best things about coming out about my mental health stuff, minus obviously the people that like to tell me that I'm fine, that I'm making it up, that I don't have these things. Someone the other day said I can't have BPD because I don't have trauma, and that was a fun one. Minus those people, the response has been amazing, and I know that like BPD in particular is a very highly stigmatized diagnosis. So the fact that people have been so nice and like not judgmental and welcoming and just happy for me, realistically, has been really, really nice. Like, nobody being like, nobody making me feel bad. Nobody making me feel bad was just very refreshing and very nice. It definitely will be a work in progress. Obviously, the issue about talking about your mental health online is the fact that you do have to deal with the fact that people are going to be trolls, people are going to be mean, and also the best one is the fact that mentally ill people do exist online as well. So people will, like earlier, try and say you don't have that thing because they have that thing, and like I don't really, I can't take that kind of stuff on board. Like, that's not my problem, that's somebody else's problem. It's not my fault. Anyway, but it definitely feels, I feel like the feedback I've gotten already has been worth the just navigating my way through people being douchebags. So thank you so much to everybody who was really polite about it. Yeah, I did have people in my life try to be like, maybe you shouldn't talk about this, and I'm like, why wouldn't I? Like, I've literally, like, I can't understand how I could be any more or less judged when I've literally written a whole book about my experiences. The only thing that's different between the book and is the fact that obviously I never shared anything in that really anybody did to me, because I didn't want to get anyone in trouble or anything like that. So there are obviously bits in my life missing that aren't in the book, like, but yeah, I was like, well, there's not really much else that anyone can judge me for, like, and if anybody judges me for a diagnosis, I mean, that's kind of on them and on me. Like, it's not my fault if I have mental illness, but it's somebody else's fault who doesn't or does have mental illness, and they try and make me feel bad about it. Like, that's on them, whereas me having the illness isn't on me. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about this. She's got BPD. You ain't stopping her from sharing anyway. Yeah. That was one of the funniest things to read about. was the correlation between people with BPD and oversharing. And a really interesting one I read about was sharing with people that aren't close to them. Like, as in, like, you know, not sharing it with your person, not sharing it with your, like, close family and stuff like that, but sharing it with other people in your life, other people in your interpersonal relationships, but not the closest, for example. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. That's incredibly interesting. Remember, crazy people can make sane people do crazy things. We can read between lines, so need to explain or justify it. I appreciate it. But yes, after reading your book and seeing your lives/TikToks, I really do admire you so much. You're amazingly brave, Chloe. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I don't know what's going on in the chat there. Oh, yes. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You know, I kind of like this mysterious enigma thing I got going on, so I'm not getting a diagnosis anytime soon. Oh, Lord. Oh. I mean, everything's up to you. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely. You know, you're so mysterious. You're so aloof. I don't know what I've missed there. I feel like I missed something, and I don't like that I missed something. I realized me finding you and your music was the best thing my sads ever did to me. Jesus, you wanna... Wait, hold on a second. Here, have my heart, it's yours. I love your nails. I get a lot of love for these. I'm very proud, because I did them myself. They look butt ugly up close, but I like the colours. Oh, I got trolls in the chat. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. I obviously am not in control of the chat, what is said in the chat, or anything like that. Like, I do apologize. Don't take anything personally. Yeah. Are you single? I don't talk about my interpersonal relationships for every reason I just explained earlier on in the stream. Because it would be exhausting if people in the stream knew about my interpersonal relationships and how I react within them. No one would be able to keep up. And that's just, like, not for me. You know, that was one of the reasons why I stopped sharing my personal life. Other than, you know, it's not fair to people who don't want their life shared online. Haha. It's also that I take a lot of my stuff out on the people in my life. So I don't want people, like, getting, like, overly, like, say, for example, a partner. Like, if I did find a partner and they were really lovely and then I ruined it because of mental illness in it, I don't want people to get upset or, like, overly attached to somebody, or, like, I say something that was loaded in an episode and I'm like, I hate them, they did this, they did that. It stops me from doing that because nobody knows who they are. So it stops people from, like, getting too attached to people, because I, you know, tend to date people and kick them away. Date people, kick them away. Date people, fall in love, you're my person, then they leave. You know? But the minute there's a ring on my finger, not this one because that's my mammy's, but if I ever, like, you know, find my person and I was, like, engaged, I would keep you guys up to date with that. I feel like that's, like, a good point to, like, start sharing that personal life more. But when everything is as rocky as my dating life is, I don't really think it's a good idea to share that. So yeah, I think that's a thing I've said to myself anyway. Like I'd share that kind of stuff if they were comfortable, or if like if they were like, I'm comfortable with you sharing it once we're engaged, you know, or like, oh now we're engaged, I feel comfortable, or something like that, because you know. Not that one time the Do Crew started a Hitman font. Oh my god, that's what I mean. I mean, that person deserved the Hitman font. Absolutely, though. Absolutely did. But I hope people understand my reasoning for that. You know, it was never just like I don't want you guys to know I'm in a relationship or I'm not in a relationship. It's because I literally get in relationships, end relationships, date toxic people because me, and then it's flip flop, flip flop, flip flop. And so it would be a very hard thing to constantly explain in live streams. Was like, oh, she's in a relationship, and I'd be like, actually, I'm not. And then like 2 days later, being like, oh, I'm in a relationship. Just too much. Too much. No one needs that. No one needs my emotional roller coaster in their life. Do you know what I mean? And yes, the guy absolutely did deserve the Hitman fund. I will admit that. They deserved it, because if you cheat on me, you deserve a Hitman fund. Anyway, guys, it is 8:10. My food should be here in like 15 minutes. Wait, no, I can track it. Why am I pretending like I can't use my phone when I'm on the stream? Yeah, me and my Rolodex of narcissists. I know. I'm so jealous they got to be with you. I mean, sure. You gotta understand as well, I only ever tell people the things from my perspective, so no one knows what it's like to date me. I could be a nightmare. I am a nightmare. But, you know, that's fine. Anyway. What did I order for dinner? There was a Devlin with prezzo before I leave. A Devlin with prezzo that for like £10 you could have a main and a side. So I did that, obviously. So I got a pepperoni pizza and some fries. So that's cool. Hell yeah. Seeing how your sparkling water addiction barely seems to make sense to you makes one appreciate how difficult it might be for someone else to understand. Even just explaining it is impossible. Yeah. But I don't mind the sparkling water thing to me, because I'm like, it's an easier one to upkeep. And it's not negatively impacting my life, you know. I just have to explain to people, like when I travel, like, you know, like when I did the writing session in Wales, when I did the writing session in Wales, I had to be like, can I go to the shop? And he's like, oh yeah, I mean, sure. And I'm like, it's a long story, but basically I'm really addicted to sparkling water, and if I don't have it, I'll be in a really bad mood, and I don't know why. And he's like, it's okay. And I'm like, thank you so much, but I just figured I'd explain that to you before I get in this car with a big bag of sparkling water, and you're gonna be like, why? And it's a lot to unpack. Okay, so, you know, at least with the sparkling water addiction, schmiddiction, it's not a real addiction, but it like emotionally is there. And yeah, at least it's not like destroying my life. You know, I'm not passing out in King's Cross Station on my way to a red carpet with sparkling water. So there's that, you know. Anyway, on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening to me talk at you, basically, because a lot of that was when I covered up the chat. Again, going on tour in September. Really, really excited. Cannot wait to actually see you guys, hug you guys, hopefully, and just play some sweet, sweet music. I can't wait. I'm very, very excited to feel like a person. And it validates me because it makes me feel like I'm doing my job. And that's why I'm really happy on tour, because I can literally see that I'm doing my job. Anyway, I also have a Patreon if you are interested. And that would be cool if you were. Okay, thank you so much. And I shall see you next Friday, hopefully at 7 p.m. But keep an eye on my Instagram stories, because that's usually where I update that stuff. Okay. I love you and I care for you, and if nobody has told you already, you are loved and you're worthwhile and you are worthy of